welcome back to the One You podcast. And today I have Sara Gross with me. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Josephine.
Yeah, so first of all, where are you located in the world?
I am in Victoria, BC, Canada. And this morning it was snowing when I first got up. And now it's sunny and well above zero. So I don't know what's going on out there, but.
Oh, whoa. So do you guys have a lot of snow or?
No, hardly
Yeah.
ever. So when it does snow, it's like we take pictures. It's
Yeah.
a special thing. It's like Pacific Northwest weather,
Yeah, that's awesome. So have you always lived there or?
No, so I grew up partially in Canada and partially in the Middle East, near
Okay.
Dubai. And then I spent most of my 20s. I did my PhD in Scotland and then spent a lot of time traveling with triathlon because I was a professional athlete for 14 years. So I spent a lot of time in Europe. I can hear your accent.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in like different European countries training and racing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So
Mhm.
you did triathlon or are you still doing it?
Not really. Now I do. Actually, I was looking at your Instagram and marveling at your strength. Since I retired from professional triathloning, I've taken up CrossFit. So I've been
That's awesome.
learning lifting technique and all kinds of fun stuff. So
Yeah. Do you like it?
I love it. Just
Yeah.
love it. I wish I had known more about strength training when I was a professional athlete.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's awesome. So, okay, so first of all, I'm super interested in hearing more about this summit that you have coming up. Tell me a little bit more about it and when
Yeah.
it is and all that.
For sure. So it's March 25th to 27th. It's the Feisty Women's Performance Summit, we call it. My business is called Feisty Media. We started last year, and essentially it's designed to curate experts on women's physical and sports performance and bring them in and educate anyone who's interested on those topics. Right. So we have education in 4 pillars, which is like physiology, nutrition, mental health, and culture. And the reason that we talk about things in those 4 pillars is we don't think you can separate one from the other. Like our mental health and our physical health are so connected. The things we believe about food, how we feel about our bodies, all of those things are interwoven. So we essentially notice that there's a lot of bullshit. Am I allowed to swear on your
Yeah,
podcast?
you're allowed
There's a
to.
lot of okay. There's a lot of crappy information out there for women who are into fitness and in sports, and it's hard to know what's what, especially because we know that not a lot of sports science studies are actually done on women and on our physiology. So figuring out what information we can use and what's useful for us is really hard. So those are the problems we're hoping to solve, and the summit is virtual. The end of March, and we're hoping. Last year we had over 350 women there, so we're aiming high this year, hoping to get 1,000 people at our summit.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. That's amazing because those are like really important points that are important to address. So you as like an athlete, when did you, because I feel like it's really recent that I understood that like me as a female need to like train and eat differently than a man, because I know like doing CrossFit for years I was trying to push myself as hard as men and I felt like I never could. I know like I'm not able to lift as heavy as they do, but I felt like they could always push hard and I couldn't. So when did you feel that you like had that transition?
Yeah, it's funny because as a pro athlete, I knew, and we'd always talk amongst athletes that there were a couple days every month that we didn't feel like we were ready to perform, and that those were days that I would kind of like in the luteal phase right before my period started. Like we figured that stuff out by trial and error, right? So I don't feel like I had one moment where I was suddenly like, oh yeah, I need to figure out my female physiology. It was more just like bits and pieces around that. Or I would find that, sometimes we'd experiment for performance around like intermittent fasting, or we'd try to eat no carbs for a short period of time. And like, actually we were using information and studies designed on men in order to create those training programs. And and a lot of us would just fall apart,
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
if
How
we
did
didn't
you
eat
feel?
carbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would never went to like, to be clear, I never went to like not eating carbs ever, but we'd sometimes try for like a 24-hour period to get like like a response from that. And so it's just actually like little pieces all along. And then when we came across, I actually asked Dr. Stacy Sims, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with her.
I yes,
Yeah.
that's who,
Yeah.
like, actually opened my eyes even more. I kind of like I feel like I felt it as well earlier that I it was something, but then when I stumbled across her, that's when I was like, "Oh, it all makes sense why it is like that."
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people found that and bought the book Roar and started to figure it out. And we asked Stacy 5 years ago to come and speak at one of our events. And when she spoke, we were all trying to tag her on social media. We were like, she's not on social. Like, how can we find her? And we thought, okay, we need to get her information out to the world, like
Yeah.
via the way that people talk to each other now in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So we actually pitched her on like, can we chop up Roar and turn it into an Instagram page and start doing that work? So yeah, it was really Stacy and Roar and hearing her speak that actually opened my eyes to like, okay, we can get this information all in one place.
That's awesome. So you guys helped her to get it out or on social media?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I first have to give credit to Celine Yeager, who co wrote Roar with her. So
Okay.
Celine had the same experience we did. And she heard Stacey speak, went to Stacey and said, we need to make a book, right? Like, I'm going to write a book for you
Yeah.
about this. Right. So that's how Roar came to be. And then a few years later, we found the book and we heard her talk, like I said, and we were like, how come nobody knows about this? Like, this book sales had flatlined, it didn't really have a big media push around it. So then that's what kind of what we created. And now we work with Stacey real closely. And we also work with Celine, who runs our Feisty Menopause brand and has an amazing podcast all about being active through menopause too. So
That's awesome. I'm actually doing the course,
mhm.
Stacey's course, the menopause course right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, nice.
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
I was like,
amazing.
I
She
just
does
want to
such a
learn
great job
more.
with the science.
Say that again?
Oh, I just said she does such a great job with the science.
Yeah. Yeah. She has so much knowledge. It's so interesting. And the way,
Mhm.
yeah, it really makes sense. But like talking about like, so you tried those like low carb days when you were a professional athlete. How did you feel and
Mhm.
what did you experience yourself?
You know, it worked maybe for one day, I think. Like the race that I had off of I was training in Switzerland at the time at altitude, and we would do like from one evening till I would only recover with protein and fat. So I might make like a big omelet with salmon or something for dinner. And then
Mm-hmm.
the next morning have like I was still eating a lot. And then the next morning also having kind of like high fat, high protein meal and then going out for whatever training session we had. And then I think we'd have carbs after that. So I was doing that kind of once a week. And that worked, right? That because it was like a short period of time.
Yeah.
And then you create that extra, like that kind of like your muscles are so depleted of glycogen at that point that like your training adaptation becomes massive.
Yeah.
But at other times when we've tried it, like for example, I've tried doing every morning without taking any carbs before training. That just, I would feel flat. I'd never be able to reach my high end in the morning. Um, so that definitely was not working for me and would be sort of different at different times of month too, right?
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So and also like how do you feel
Mhm,
like
mhm.
cognitive wise, like brain, like thinking and all that? Did it affect that as well or only the bodily performance?
Yeah, great question. I don't know how much I used my brain back in those days. Um, yeah, I think if you honestly, my experience with brain fog is more to do with is with not eating,
Yeah.
right? So or with like so if I would get worse brain fog if I haven't eaten enough.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's hard to know what's what at some point because it's hard to
That's
sometimes
true.
keep up with your calories and sometimes we're being overly cautious about how much we take in.
Yeah.
Um,
But did you experiment with
mhm.
intermittent fasting as well?
Not like yes, in that I would because exercise itself, is a form of like it creates the same impetus as fasting does in terms of your
Yeah.
body. So if you exercise, it's like, I know that I'm not saying that my language isn't right on that, but so I would sometimes do long runs in the morning on in just having just had black coffee,
Yeah.
and I know that I would leave myself so depleted, especially like imagine doing like a 3-hour run in the Swiss Alps with only coffee. Like that just wasn't a good idea. By the end
No,
of the run, you feel like you want to walk, right?
that's
Yeah.
so
So,
crazy.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
So for how long did you do the triathlon? When did you start, and like when did you feel like
So
you
I was
kind of
Yeah, I did my first triathlon in 1999, which that's going to tell you how old I am. And I was a professional athlete for 14 years,
that's
from
amazing.
2003 until about 2017. Yeah.
That's so great. And you competed all over Europe or all over the world?
Yeah, I'm definitely all over the world. I did Ironman. So, especially when I first started, there aren't that many races, right? So, and you also like you gather points in kind of like a world tour kind of thing in order to qualify for the world championships in Hawaii. So yeah, I definitely have gone to races in Australia and South Africa, North America, of course, Brazil. I raced in Brazil 6 times. That was really
That's
fun.
awesome.
So I'm just definitely feel really really grateful that I got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Mhm.
And then after that,
Mhm.
how was the transition when you like decided to stop like competing in triathlons? Like what did you do instead? And like how, because I know like as like I do a lot of bikini shows right now, and I know like transitioning between like off, for me, like between an on season
Mm.
and off season, you kind of like lose a little bit of when it's time to go like after a competition, you kind of like you feel like you lose a little bit of your uh, purpose or like the why you're doing
Yeah.
it. How was that
Yeah.
like,
No,
transition
totally.
after?
I think because I had the same thing, like I had an Ironman's a really big thing to prepare for, and you typically only do 2 or 3 a year. So
Yeah.
probably like your bikini shows, it's like I was already used to that up and down rhythm, so I knew that it was coming, that I needed to keep moving or keep doing something or navigate having new goals, right?
Yeah.
But also I was a little bit burnt out. Like I was kind of done with the hard training and with
Yeah.
honestly like putting my body through the pain of like anaerobic intervals and that kind of stuff. So I think I managed to refocus pretty quickly on my business, right? Like really I think Feisty Media is how I said I just made myself a really huge goal, like building a media company. How do you even do that? Right? Like it's
Yeah.
like is it and then I just kind of went all in on it. So all of that energy, that competitive energy and the desire to achieve, like all just kind of went into that bucket. And then it wasn't too long before I started CrossFit because I knew I needed something. I was running a lot, but I knew I needed something a little bit more intense and engaging and different for me. So CrossFit really filled that physical void in terms of being like this. I could do for me are short workouts, but you get a lot of bang for your buck in those workouts, right? So I really appreciate the fact that CrossFit even exists, and that I was able to do it.
Yeah. I agree. That's awesome. So is that when you started
Mhm.
your business, or had you started it before that, but you the Feisty Media?
Yeah. No. Yeah, good question. I had been part of a media push to try to get equal slots for the female pros at the Ironman World Championship because at the time we only got 35 slots and the men got 50 for some dumb reason, even though we
Whoa.
have equal prize money. Yeah. And so, yeah, that was near the end of my career. And as a result, I had talked to a lot of journalists because we really were pushing hard to try to make this change. And I thought, like being a journalist, that's something that could really make a difference and I could see myself being good at. So I started to look into options. And I realized pretty quickly that media is like a strange and changing landscape right now, like how media companies that used to sell newspapers and magazines have transitioned online, and how even now separately, like how mainstream television, most people are now, excuse me, consuming content online. I'm like, oh, this is just messy. Like, I don't know.
It is.
So I decided I wanted to start my own thing. It is, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, I decided I was better off starting my own thing. And yeah, and so I just decided I started with one podcast and then very quickly two podcasts and just started, talking to people about the things that we wanted to talk about.
I love that. So when was this? You said 2000.
Mhm. That was 2017. Yeah, so I officially launched around September. We always go, what's the birthday? I don't really know what the official, but it's around September
Yeah,
2017. I had a launch party in March of 2018 too, once we had a few things actually in place. So,
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. So, and when did you get to know like Stacey and work closer to her?
so we had a summit in Arizona called that, we still have it, the Outspoken Women in Triathlon Summit. And the first year we had that was 2018. It was
Is that
kind of
an
like end of
in-person
November, early
summit?
December.
Summit or
It was. So we were in
okay?
person for 2 years, and then we went virtual for 2 years.
Yeah,
So now we're like really hoping um to be in person again this fall. But yeah, so we invited Stacy to come and speak, and she was in the middle of a 4 or 5 like she was speaking at 4 or 5 different places in the US cuz she lives in New Zealand. So we just happened to hit her at the right time. She came. I knew her because she had been on one of our podcasts called Iron Women, and
yeah.
that episode had like more listens than any of our other
I
episodes.
think I've listened to
And I
that
knew a lot of
one.
pro athletes. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
nice, cool. Yeah, it got shared a lot. I guess we were pretty early on the Stacy thing.
yeah,
Now she's on so many podcasts.
yeah.
We see
Because
the
I remember
requests coming through her social media all the time.
when I first found her, I was just like googling all and listening to all the podcasts that she had been on because I just wanted to know more.
I love that. Yeah, that's what we thought. We were like, everybody wants this information. Like,
Yeah,
let's go. So yeah, that was how we first came across Stacy.
I love that. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So is that what you're now doing, the virtual summit that is happening in the end of March? Is that kind of the same or is that like a different one than the one you did in Arizona?
Yeah, so now we've grown quite a lot. So we have we have 4 events now. We have the Women's Performance Summit, which is essentially about women's performance across all sports or for any active woman. We have our Menopause Summit, which has a similar theme, but it's for women specifically in their 40s and above. We have the Triathlon Summit, which is Outspoken, which is the one that it was our original one because we were triathletes. And that's in the fall. And then now we have a gravel cycling event that we just launched, which is our first time doing a sports event. So
That's
like
awesome.
people actually ride. Yeah, so it's basically this. It's happening in Bentonville in April, and it's basically like for women who want to ride gravel and work on their technique, and have all just kinds of like different rides across the weekend.
I love that. You have so much going on. That's awesome.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I have now we have about 10 people on our team, and so it's just been like a really fun and interesting journey, growing from like just me to like actually now I have to figure out, okay, what kind of culture do I want for my business, or what kind of systems, or how do I want to communicate? And those are totally different questions than the beginning when I was just like, how do I make this work? How do I get someone to pay me to do this? Um,
Exactly. But that's awesome. So for this summit now
mhm,
coming up, who are the
mhm.
speakers, or can you tell me that, or is that like kind of like
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad that you asked because I should have said it before.
yeah,
So, of course, we have Stacy on the main stage. She's one of our headliners. We have Amelia Boone, the obstacle course racer.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a 4-time world champion in obstacle course racing. She's an ultra runner, and she also has been like very open about eating disorders, which is totally part of her story that we want to tell as well. We have Alison Desir, who wrote Running While Black. And she sort of started a big movement around being more inclusive in the sport of running. We have, Lael Wilcox, who was the first woman to win the American Trans Am bike race. So it's one of
Whoa,
those really long bike races that goes across the country, and she won outright. Like she beat the men too.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, that was like, I remember when that came out. Yeah, I always love these sports where the women can win. It's like,
Me too.
so I'm excited to hear from her. And I'm forgetting someone. It will come to me, but that's kind of our main stage. And then in the breakout sessions, we tend to get like vetted experts. So we'll recruit like people who may not have a huge following, but who have expertise in things like in like women's physiology. They might have a PhD or be a medical doctor, or someone or a nutritionist, dietitian, people who can really speak to like women specific information in our 4 pillars. So that's how we sort of populate uh, the breakout sessions too. So we're getting that like quality information and have the inspiring keynotes on the main stage.
I love that. That's awesome. So it's during 3 days, you said?
Yes. So it's a weekend. So it starts on Friday night, the 25th of March. And it goes until about midday, a little after midday on Sunday, the 27th. And it's all virtual. So like, and everything's recorded. So
Oh,
if
nice.
people don't want to be there, like for the whole weekend, or, people are out doing their own exercise fun, you can watch it later too. So
That's
it makes
great.
it pretty easy for
Yeah.
people to
So
come
what
and go.
times, like, is it PST, like the time zone it's gonna happen, or?
Yeah, we try to make it friendly for people, at least in the US and Canada. So we start at like, I think it's 4 p.m. PST, so that's
Okay,
7 p.m. EST, so that people can watch. So then people in the UK, for example, could watch that the next morning, or in Australia they can watch in the morning as well.
exactly.
So we try to make it a little inclusive, and like I say, like you can always watch it things later. We
Exactly.
had a
And
joke last year, actually. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna ask if, like, even if you're there in person, like, can you get the recording as well to watch it again, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we sell 2 different tickets. One is the weekender ticket, which is $99, and then one is the like all access ticket, which is $149. And that ticket gets you access for a year. So
That's
like you can
awesome.
go in and watch it as many times as you want all year long with
Yeah,
that all access ticket. Mhm,
that's great.
mhm.
And you were gonna say something last year.
Oh, I was just saying last year one of our moderators made this joke of like that we had to be time inclusive when we were announcing everything. So it was like everyone who came on the stage went, "Good morning, good afternoon, and good night," like
That's
every time.
awesome.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah, it's so crazy how it is with all, like, the time zones and
Yeah, it's hard to choose times that are good for everyone, right? Or even sometimes I have meetings where someone's in New Zealand and someone's in Europe and someone's in Canada. And you're
that
like,
must be so hard
somebody's there.
to coordinate.
Yeah, somebody's there at exactly like 11 p.m. Just like, okay, I've got a work call now. Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. No, but this sounds like a great summit, really. I'm definitely gonna be there. And if I can't be there, I'm definitely
Amazing.
gonna watch it after.
Cool.
Yeah. So so what else? Anything else you like feel like you want to share about, like, around the summit, or?
Not really. Maybe just follow us on social media.
Yeah,
We're like Feisty_media. And that's sort of where we can find out about the summit too. And our website for the summit's womensperformance.com. So that's where folks can go. We're like publishing articles there. And I do a podcast every week called the Women's Performance Podcast. And we have same sort of thing. We try to get experts in the various across our 4 pillars to continue to get good information to women.
it's so important. It really is.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend everybody go listen to your podcast for sure. And we'll also like, I'll leave the info for the summit and your Instagram in the show notes. Um, and yeah, is there anything else you want to share before we jump off?
No, just like thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me. It's fun to talk to you. I'm so glad I found you too, because now I will
Yeah.
follow you on Insta. And
No,
the
thank you.
bikini contest is not my world, but I love it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. It is really interesting. It's like, yeah, I've been doing it for a few years, but not too many, like just since 2019. So that's also like, I'm trying
Mm.
to figure it out with hormones and like all that as well. So, but yeah, thank you so much
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
coming
Because
on. And I'm really excited for the summit and to learn even more about all that. And yeah, thank you.
great. Thanks, Josephine.